So the questions that we're hoping that you're going to be able to answer for us tonight to help people better understand the immersion program is, what was your experience like in the program? What was it that you took away from that program? And what is it that you're currently doing now?
Okay, so I'm just going to start by giving a little bit of background, which is that basically I ran across the program when I was sort of at a transitional point in my life because I had essentially quit my PhD program in cell biology and got married and had moved and was trying to figure out what to do next. And I had always done various fiber arts like spinning, and I did a lot of sewing, and I had a loom, but I was like basically afraid to warp it. And so I was part of the Spinners and Weavers Guild that's local to me. And somebody sent out an email that was basically like, this is, this program, if you're interested. And I think someone had written, one of the previous people had written a blog about it. They had some blog posts. And so I went and read those. And I was just like, this just seems like the coolest thing ever. Like, I would really love to do this. And so, I decided to do it because I, had this space in my life and really wanted to not be afraid of my loom anymore. And so, went from, I'm in Illinois, and I went out to Massachusetts, and, it's the farmhouse there is just like beautiful. I remember that first day just thinking like, this is just going to be so fun because it's in such a beautiful location, and, really just had the best time ever. And I feel like I got such a really good technical foundation, and, had a great time. When I did it was 16 weeks, and, it was just fantastic, learned so much. And, I ended up buying a loom, and I went for the big loom, the 60-inch. And so I had to actually tie part of the loom on top of my car in order to drive it back to Illinois. And then once I got back in Illinois, we actually moved out of our master bedroom, and my loom now lives there. And and so I've been weaving, and I sell stuff online, mostly kitchen things like towels and placemats.
So Christine, we would love it if you would tell us just a little bit about yourself, what your experience was in the Väv Immersion program, what it was that you took away from that, and what you're doing now these days.
So I will also just give a little bit of background on how I got started in weaving. I had always had an interest in different crafts. I just loved like learning how to quilt and knit and sew. And I had joined my friends at this fiber festival in New York called the Rhinebeck. I can't remember it now. Anyways, it's this big yarn festival in Rhinebeck, and I stumbled upon this woman's stall full of different weavings, and I became fascinated. I never thought about weaving as something that you could learn to do. And I was also working at the time as an engineer, and I really wanted to do just something that was completely opposite, just very slow and deliberate and very hands-on. And I talked to her about the process, and it sounded like the perfect balance to my life as an engineer, just something that would help me relax after the day. So after I talked to her, I immediately looked for a weaving program when I got home, and there was a weaving workshop that started 2 days after that festival. And I became hooked. I was so obsessed. I went to the studio as much as I could, and I really wanted to know how to learn more. I actually reached out to the woman whose stall I went to, and I just wanted to tell her how much just that interaction changed my life at that point, because I discovered this whole new world. And she's the one who told me about Vashtuga. She said that she had been weaving for 10 years before she went to Vashtuga, but she learned so much in the beginner's course, and she recommended if at all possible, that I try to get there because it would help me advance my knowledge and skills more than anything else. So I always had it in my mind that I wanted to go to Väv at some point. Then fast forward a couple years, I was planning to move back to California, but I really wanted to go to Väv before I moved back to California. And I talked to another friend who had already heard of the program, and I convinced her to join me in a beginner workshop. And it was an amazing week. I hadn't been familiar with the Swedish looms, and I learned so many different techniques. And during that time, Becky told me about the immersion program. So I moved to California, and I had it in my mind, like, okay, now I moved to California, but now am I going to go back to the East Coast, to do this immersion program? And I really debated, but I decided I really wanted the opportunity to advance my skills and knowledge. And I felt like that was the best situation for me, because I felt like learning on my own just wouldn't be as effective. And I really wanted also to immerse myself, where that's all I focused on all day, was just learning how to weave. And it turned out to be beyond my expectations, just not only for the technical and hands-on experience and using different materials, but just the chance to be in that environment where you're really close to nature. And I feel like it is so fitting to learn how to weave in that environment, where Becky and the way she approaches her life and the land is just so aligned with weaving. And I really appreciated that a lot. And also just the bonds that I made with my other classmates, and just kind of going through that experience together was really nice. And now I've been mostly weaving just as a hobby. I'm really focused on just working on developing my skills and trying to figure out how to express certain things through cloth. I'm still in the process, but it's just this never-ending exploration journey. I just feel like it's really nice to have something like that that can last you a lifetime.
So we would love if you would just tell us a little bit about yourself and what your experience in immersion was like, what you took away from it, and what you're doing now.
Okay. So I come from Tennessee, and I ended up going to a college in Kentucky called Berea College, where I was getting my degree. And one of the things at the college is that you have to have a job. And so I enjoy doing crafts and stuff and working with my hands, and with all the schooling and everything, every student has to have a job there. And I kind of figured if I was going to get a job, I wanted something to work with my hands, and they had a craft program there. And so I saw that there was a weaving program, and at the time I was a crocheter, and I was crocheting a lot of baby blankets for some of my friends. And I was like, crocheting, weaving, same thing. No. And it was like, oh, I'll learn this weaving thing. Well, it wasn't until a year later that I actually started at the weaving program. And after I started, I was getting a little bit into it. I was like, this is really cool. And I was spending a lot of time, my extra time outside of classes, researching weaving and stuff, and bugging my supervisor about weaving stuff, because all that we did was we went in there and we would weave. We didn't really have time to learn the process, like how to make a draft and what set was and all of that stuff. It was mainly just to go in and weave a product, which I did placemats and rugs and things like that. And so, and I did sectional warping, which is also more of a production thing. That's what we were doing, was production. It wasn't really like an art thing or it was a job. And so I really started to like it, and I was a little bit sad because now I was pursuing a degree and I was finding that I liked this thing outside of my degree, and I was worried I was going to miss out. School is where you learn how to do things like weaving, right? And this was a school that could teach that. And I was really sad because I was like, I found this new thing that's a passion, and I hadn't found anything that I felt that passionate about. And I think I was watching one of my weaving videos, and I found a YouTuber who had gone to one of Bastuga's classes and posted about it. And I was like, whoa, there's schools out in the world that are not colleges that teach weaving. I was like, I have to check this out. So that was 2015. And from that point on, I started to like plan and save up to go to the immersion program that I found out about in Bastuga. And in the time between 2015, when I found out about the program, and 2019, when I did attend the program, I attended a few other jobs. And when I graduated school and everything, I thought that weaving would be a hobby, one of those things that I do outside of my job. But every job that I kept running into had an aspect of weaving to it. I worked at camps, and one of the camps I went to had like 21 looms, different models and stuff. And they were like, oh, you have some weaving experience. Would you like to work on our looms and set them up? And so I had the complete, weird situation of like production weaving, and then all of a sudden having to learn how to maintain and work on looms. And I was like, this weaving thing keeps popping up. And I was like, maybe I should really look into this and see what happens. And so I ended up going to the program in 2019 in the fall at the Bastuga Immersion. And I was so excited to go. And it was just, I was so excited. There were other students there who loved weaving like I did. There were a couple who were brand new to weaving, two of them had never woven before and decided to do this Väv Immersion thing. And we all got together, and it was great to have a community of weavers, because everywhere I had been, and my family, my friends who did not know weaving, I was a little much for them with my passion and excitement about weaving. But at the Bastuga, like, I could talk with everybody, and we all just we could talk for a long time about weaving and designs and different looms. And it was just so great to have that time in that community. And I wasn't eccentric. It was so much fun. Lots of questions. I got to look at so many books. It was a great experience. And we got to try so many different, I'd never woven with anything other than cotton. And now I was trying linen and wool and learning so much more about a particular loom that I'm particularly fond of the Swedish. The Swedish method was the way I learned whenever I was at Berea. So it was great to get more in depth about what I'd done 4 years before when I first started out, why I was doing what I was doing. And so at the end of the program, Becky had asked me if I wanted to stick around, and I told her I was kind of like, this weaving thing, maybe this is what I'm supposed to do, because where I'd been going to other jobs and it keep coming back, I was like, this would be great. I would love to continue this as a job if I could. And so my degree was education. So I thought it was a great combination of mixing teaching with weaving. And so I've stuck around with Bastuga and have been doing kind of like an apprenticeship where I help out with some of the classes, but also Becky kind of instructs me on extra things. So we studied things like different twills and the formula to be able to calculate set and things like that, and try to get it a little bit more exact, and trying out different, which I'm really interested in, like the mechanics of the looms and how they work and why they work, and trying to get them to work better. And so we did a lot of that. We've played around with different things to see, what can we do to change a loom or to, work on what makes it work better. And so it's been really exciting for me. And, Vastuga she gave me, when Becky did the program, it was just like she focused on things like how to write down all of your patterns and keep up with all your stuff. And that was things I didn't know how to do. And I was so excited to learn how to record my projects so I could go back and do them again. And so anyways, I think that's it.